Hi, this is Joy at Pine Quilt Shop. Today we're talking about half square triangle tools. So we're going to compare and contrast a variety of tools that you can use to cut half square triangles. So I have a variety of tools laid out in front of me, and one of the things that I wanted you to be able to easily see is the size difference in the tools. The first tool is the 45-degree half square triangle tool from Creative Grids. It is the largest tool in the mix of tools that I have in front of you. This one can cut all the way up to 8-inch finished half square triangles. So it is the biggest tool. It is simply focused just on cutting half square triangles, and it is the largest tool that I have in my mix. So it is the biggest one. The next two tools are a little bit different. They have one end that can cut half square triangles, and the other side of these two tools is designed to cut quarter square triangles. These tools all work by cutting them off of a strip of fabric, and I'll show you how that works here in a second, but they all work with a strip of fabric, and these two tools can cut both half square triangles and quarter square triangles from a strip of fabric. And again, you're going to notice a size difference here as well between these two tools. One is an inch bigger than the other, and the quarter square triangle side of this one is significantly bigger than the next tool down. The last tool that I have is the smallest tool in the group, but it's a very unique tool. This is the half square 4-in-1 triangle ruler, and with this side of the ruler you can cut half square triangles. It also is designed though so that you can square them up, and we have another video on our YouTube page. If you look at the video on tools to square up half square triangles, you'll see how this ruler is used to square up half square triangles either before or after pressing. It also has an interesting slot in here that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but it is the smallest of the tools. The other thing that you want to always be conscious of when you're working with a tool like this is if the markings are for the finished or the cut size. This tool is really nice because it's marked clearly, a 1-inch strip, and that will give you a 1/2-inch finished half square triangle. The next tool is marked with the finished size. You can see that's the little end that's going to be trimmed off, and we've got 1.5 inches here, and it's marked with a 1 because that is a 1-inch finished mark, not the cut, so it's giving you just the finished. The next tool also gives you both. So here it says a 1.5-inch strip, and that will give you a 1-inch finished half square triangle. So it gives you both sizes. The first tool that we looked at, this tool gives you the cut size. So where it says 1, that would be a 1-inch strip, which would actually be a 1/2-inch finished half square triangle. So this is giving you the cut size, the strip size, not the finished size of your half square triangle. So you want to always be conscious of that when you're working with these rulers. Make sure you know if your ruler is marked with the cut or the finished. Now, these rulers work by cutting off of a strip set, and I'm going to use this ruler, and I'll pull my strip set over here. And when you're cutting with a strip set like this, you want to make sure you put them right sides together, so after you cut they are ready to sew, and you're going to want to square up your end. So you would normally, if it was a full strip of fabric, you would go ahead and trim off your selvage. I've already squared that up, so I'm going to go ahead and place my ruler. So with this ruler, I'm going to place that blunt tip at the top edge of the strip, and I'm going to place this side at the side of the strip, and then I am lining up with 3.5, which this is a 3-inch finished half square triangle that I'm working on, and I will go ahead and make my first cut. So there is a half square triangle unit ready to go to the sewing machine, and when you sew these, you want to make sure that when you run them into your sewing machine, you feed that pointed end in first. That will give the feed dogs a little more to grab, it will actually feed better than feeding the blunt end in first. So always feed that pointed end in first when you're piecing these on your sewing machine. So with this ruler, we lined that blunt end up with the top of the strip. And this is the one other thing that's different between the various tools. Now the next tool also has a blunt end, so it is similar to this one, smaller in size, but similar from a setup. The other two tools, though, the ends are different, and I wanted to show you what that looked like. So this tool has a dashed line, and I don't know if you can see that. I guess we can get a good camera angle. You can see the dashed line that you will line up with the strip. So you will line that dashed line up with the top of the strip and line up the side, and then I'm also lining up my 3-inch. Now this one is marked with the finished sizes, so that's a 3-inch finished. I'm still cutting off a 3.5-inch strip, and now I'll go ahead and cut here, and I have another half square triangle unit. My last tool has a black tip, and you line that black tip up with the top of your strip. So I'll line that up, I'll line my side up, and this one is one that's marked with both the finished and the cut, so 3.5-inch strip, 3-inch finished, and I am ready to cut. So I wanted you guys to see the different tips on these tools, because for some people, just visually with their eyes, they have an easier time with one or the other. Some people like the black tip. It's easier for them to line that up. Some people like the dashed line. I like the dashed line. That's probably my favorite if I have a choice. But I also do really well with the blunt end. And for bigger tools, I go to these two that do have that blunt end. So try different ones if you have the opportunity to do that, and see which is easier for you from a lineup standpoint. So keep in mind the differences between the tool and the tools are the size that they can cut, how that end is marked, if it's blunt or it has a dash line or it has a dark line, and then also keep in mind that some are marked with finished size, some are marked with cut size, some are marked with both. And you might find that one tool or the other is easier for you to use because of how they're marked. So that is a variety of different tools that you can use to make half square triangles. These are designed to make your half square triangles. You're cutting them one at a time from that strip. The awesome thing about using these tools is you're cutting from a strip. You have zero waste, which is wonderful. None of us like to waste fabric. And if you have a quilt where you need squares and you need half square triangles going into the same block, you can frequently cut a strip of fabric, and you can cut your squares and you can cut your half square triangles from the same width strip, which if you only need a few of certain colors, that works out really well. So this is how to cut half square triangles one at a time, and a variety of tools you can do it with. We have 2 other half square triangle videos on our YouTube page. One is squaring up, and there will be another video that will be on how to do half square triangles, making them multiple half square triangles at a time instead of one at a time. So we hope you watch and catch those other videos as well. Thanks for joining us.